All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to my August YouTube Live. Hopefully, I'm coming in loud and clear. I'm actually trying, or YouTube actually changed their system. So there's a new streaming or new way to go live and new way to stream. So hopefully everything is looking good and sounding good. If you guys are watching live right now, feel free to go ahead and chime in on the live chat, which should be over on the right hand side. Or if you're on desktop and if you're on mobile, you should be able to scroll down, see the live chat, see what other people are asking and talking about and saying, and I'll be able to see your comments there also. So if you guys are watching after the fact, you can always review the live chat, but of course you won't be able to chat live with us, but you can leave a comment and I'll do my best to respond to you at a later date. So looks like we've got a few people joining the stream right now. So thanks everyone for coming on board. If this is your first time joining, welcome. We do these YouTube lives each and every single month. If you guys are coming back for more, we've been doing them for close to 2 years, a lot of fun. We'll go for about an hour. We're going to talk about some of the latest and greatest breaking news in the rideshare industry. We'll also talk about a couple of the latest app updates. We've seen a couple to both Uber and Lyft recently with Uber Pro and Lyft's new pay structure in a few markets. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll spend most of the time answering all of the questions that you guys and gals might have for me. So I'm ready. I've got my water bottle right here nearby, ready for your questions. And if you guys do want to stay tuned to the end, we're going to be doing a giveaway of my book, as we always do. Usually we give away something good. Today it's my book. I think last month we actually gave away copies of Uberland. I think we gave away 10 or 12 copies, which is a book by Alex Rosenblatt. So if you guys did win a copy, congrats on that. V Bell says, "Hey Harry, I received the Uberland finally. Thanks, my man." So yeah, I didn't say we're the fastest at sending you the prizes, but you do get the prizes eventually. Steve also says, "I got my copy also." So thank you again. So you guys know that I'm not just hoarding all of these copies of Uberland in my own book. We do actually send them out. So I appreciate everyone following, participating, and also entering the contest so that you guys can win. Looks like we've got a bunch of people joining. I see some familiar names. Look like we've got Adventure Girl Paula. Looks like you might have changed your name, Paula, your YouTube name. It used to be Uber Girl Paula. Ryan says, "Hi Harry, watching from LAX." So any of you drivers who are out there, taking a little break to pop into this YouTube live, I appreciate you hopping on, and I'll definitely do my best to answer all of your questions. But if you do have to take off because you got a ping, then feel free. This replay will be available later, but if you're waiting in the queue at LAX, it might be a while. So Steve says, "Don't forget to hit thumbs up." Yeah, if you guys are watching right now and you give me a thumbs up on this video, that helps big time with the YouTube algorithm, and it's really just a great way to pay it forward. Other drivers will see this stream, and then we can all benefit from that. So I will start getting into, I want to mention a couple of the big, really the biggest story I think in the past few weeks happened recently. It was last week, Uber and Lyft, now that they're public companies, they have these earnings calls. They announce, how much money they lost. Sometimes it's how much they make or lost, but in Uber and Lyft's case, it's how much money they lost. So it was pretty, staggering to see just how much money Uber lost, $5 billion last quarter. And I guess there were a lot of stock write-offs for their employees, which kind of complicates the numbers. But, one thing that I saw that stood out to me with Lyft's earnings is that they actually reported, now that they're a public company, they have to report a lot of stuff. So it's interesting for drivers to sort of see some of these suspicions we have sometimes confirmed. They told investors that they're now charging riders more. So they increased prices on riders, but they're not paying drivers anymore. And I think that if you're a driver, this probably isn't a big shock to you, because if you have Lyft PPZ, the personal power zone, or you've seen Lyft's upfront pricing, you kind of already had a theory, or maybe you thought that they might be doing this, but this kind of really confirms it. So I know that drivers, myself, we always see, probably one of the top complaints right now is the high commission. And not just Lyft and Uber take, there's certain rides where it might be a 40, 50, 60% commission. And on other rides, they might actually lose money, or the percentage might be a lot lower. But basically their average commission that they're taking seems like basically has been confirmed that it's going up. So that's definitely not something I'm looking forward to. But I also don't know if there's a whole lot drivers can do do about it. So I'm curious to know from you guys that are watching, have you seen, what do you think about, kind of the commission that Uber and Lyft are taking? I mean, I know that I think most drivers would agree that it's pretty high, but have you noticed a difference in Lyft, especially their commission going up, or do you kind of feel that it's about the same? Looks like we've got some people chiming in. Cecilio says, watching from Ceres. I don't know what that is, but awesome. New Jersey. Steven says hello. And Philly. So we've got lots of good. Lots of folks from all over the country appreciate that. And it looks like we're up to over 50 people watching live right now. So thank you everyone who's joining. If you have any thoughts on that, V says, Lyft seems to be taking more of the airport rides here, shaking my head. Alejo is watching in Las Vegas. Phoenix, Scott in Phoenix. And Gabriel says, we all knew that raised prices were coming. And I think, that's the thing to think about, right? With Uber and Lyft in the past, they had investors who were kind of subsidizing a lot of this, but now pricing is pretty simple. I mean, there's only two places that Uber and Lyft can get more money from, right? They can either charge passengers more or they can pay drivers less. And I guess the good news for drivers is that I think they've kind of already lowered prices to the point where they're sort of paying drivers about as little as they can. So I don't think that they're going to be lowering prices for drivers anytime soon, but I do think that they're going to be increasing prices on riders and sort of trying to find ways to make more money. So that being said, I think as drivers, you may just have to sort of be even more strategic about when and where you drive. And just if you understand those dynamics, it can kind of help you plan your times and places and things like that you drive. So Peter says, why does Uber lose so much money? Well, I think that last quarter, to be honest, these companies, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to understand their financials. When you have billions of dollars going up and going down, I won't even pretend to understand, but I did read a few articles about Uber's losses last quarter, and it seems like the actual money that they lost was probably a lot less, but since they had to pay out a bunch of employees in stock and compensation and things like that, they kind of dumped everything into one quarter. So they kind of were like, hey, this quarter is going to be really bad. We're going to have a lot of losses, but they don't really count against the business. That's sort of their reasoning there. Paula says, go into your fare breakdown and you'll see that every visit to the airport, the rideshare companies pay another $3 to $5 depending on the airport. So Paula, when you drop off a rider at the airport, and I believe even when you pick up too, each airport actually charges a fee directly to the passenger. So if you've ever noticed, if you've ever had some passengers, this has happened a lot early on to me too. Passengers sometimes would want to get dropped off just outside the airport and take the shuttle in, and they realized that they could sort of avoid the traffic, but also they could avoid the airport fee that most airports charge. Sometimes it's like $3, $4, $5. So that could be what you're seeing there. And hopefully, Peter, that answers your question. Cecilio says it's Ceres, California. That's interesting. I'm from California. I live in California. I didn't even know that city. So I learned something today. Appreciate that. LJ says Lyft is even taking more on short rides in Florida. I mean, I think that in general, short rides have always been something that you want to try and avoid. Now, there's a couple times though, if you're on a guarantee or a trip-based bonus, if you're trying to rack up as many trips as possible, that's actually when those short rides, you kind of want to rack them up. So we've got some articles and videos on strategies for sort of basically trying to rack up as many short rides as possible, which is a little bit of a different strategy than you might normally think, right? If you're just going out and driving, you want the medium to longer rides because you're going to make more money on those. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, Alexander says, your thoughts on renting a car from Fair? I'm in Chicago. So right now, there are a ton of options for drivers when it comes to renting or leasing a car. And, we are an affiliate for Fair, so I should sort of say that at the start. But Jay, one of our contributors, who you've probably seen his videos and articles, he has tried out the Fair program. And right now, I mean, it's basically probably one of the most popular popular programs out there just because they're doing a ton of marketing. They're Uber's official partner. And since they're sort of making this big marketing push, it does seem like I think they have one of the best programs out there right now. They have a new program that's launched all over California. It's also in, I think, Washington, D.C., Maryland area, and Georgia. And I think it's expanding to other cities too. So if you're in another city, I would definitely keep an eye out for the FAIR program. Their old program is a little different. It has a higher startup fee, but I really like their new program where it's $195 a week. You actually get your first week free. So that's a nice little bonus there. And then if you hit certain trip thresholds, then you can go ahead and basically get some, all, or sometimes even more than the $195 credit back to you. So if you guys want to learn more about FAIR, we've got a bunch of articles and videos. I'll leave a link right now. Oops, I left two links, but to our vehicle marketplace, you can read all our reviews about FAIR and kind of the firsthand experience. Because there are some issues that drivers are running into with FAIR, but we sort of show you how to avoid those and how to kind of overcome any issues that you might have with FAIR or really any of the vehicle rental programs. So hopefully that's helpful. But I wouldn't be surprised if that new program came to Chicago sometime soon. Lionel says, is there an app to use Uber and Lyft together? Well, there is. There's an app called Maestro that we actually just wrote about. And basically, it allows drivers on Android to drive for both Uber and Lyft simultaneously. But they've been running into some issues with Lyft because Lyft is actually blocking them right now. So you can still use Maestro, but you have to use their computer version and you can't download it from the App Store anymore. So you could go check out maestrodriver.com. And we just wrote an app, or sorry, not an app. We just wrote an article about Lyft blocking these third-party apps, which I'm going to find right now. So we just wrote an article about Lyft blocking Maestro that you can read more about that and get some details on that. And then I see IB Queefin. Okay, with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. And let's see. So Adventure Girl Paula says, you should get to know your market in LA. You can still make money. You just have to work smart. And I totally agree with that, Paula. You know, we were talking about all of the negative changes that these companies have been making. But I mean, I interviewed just a few weeks ago on my podcast a driver from LA who's now one of our contributors on the Rideshare Guy. And his name is Sergio. He's driving in LA. And he consistently makes over $25 to $30 an hour driving for Uber and Lyft. But he has a lot of strategies that he's using. He really thinks about when and where he's driving. He knows the surge patterns. He's very patient. That was one thing that stood out to me in the podcast that I did with him. I'll leave a link to that if you guys want to go check out my interview with Sergio, but it can definitely still be done. And I mean, that's really what my whole site and business is about, is understanding, you know, there's certain variables that you cannot control, you know, what Uber and Lyft do on their end, but there is a lot that you can control on your end. And so that's what I am here to help you guys with. So hopefully that makes sense. I saw a good question come in about I think it was the ASU tuition. So I'm wondering if signing up for Uber ASU tuition offer is something that is reliable for the next 4 years. So Gabriel is talking about Uber Pro. And one of the benefits of Uber Pro is ASU. They have a partnership with Arizona State University where you can basically get free tuition. I mean, you have to hit the certain trip thresholds or level to, you know, get whatever status you need. I'll leave a link right now to our article on Uber Pro because last month at the end of July, Uber actually just expanded their Uber Pro program. So that's a good one to take advantage of right now. Uber just expanded it to a bunch of cities. And one of the benefits that I don't think everyone, you know, you see ASU tuition, that probably isn't going to resonate with everyone. But I will say for the drivers who are, you know, driving part-time and also going to school, or who are driving and thinking about going to school, that benefit has been really powerful for a lot of them. So I think that's a cool little benefit that maybe not everyone can use. But I guess to answer your question, Gabriel, I don't think that they're going to take it away. if you sign up for it now, I don't think that they're going to take it away from you later. But I could see that, in 6 to 12 months, if not that many people are taking advantage of it, they don't let new drivers come into it. So if you're thinking about going back to college or getting a degree or whatever it might be, I would definitely try to hit those levels if you have Uber Pro in your city so you can get that ASU tuition covered. Because you're right, Gabriel says it is a good chunk of change. Yeah, and I agree there. That definitely is a nice benefit if you can take advantage of it. So we've got Ukeman coming in from Huntsville, Alabama. Appreciate you joining. And looks like Erica says, hi, Erica says, with all of the Uber and Lyft rate cuts and decreasing incentives, do you really believe that you can still be successful with rideshare? And follow-up question, what do you consider as successful? So it's sort of what I just answered, but to kind of follow up on that, I mean, I think everyone's definition of success is different. I mean, for someone like me, like if, I'm going out and driving Uber and Lyft, obviously I've got my blog, I've got my YouTube channel. So when I go out and drive, it's to kind of think up content ideas to see what the experience is like. I've been doing it for 6 years. Would I still be driving for Uber and Lyft, with all of the rate cuts and the decreased incentives if I didn't have my blog and YouTube channel? Maybe not, maybe even probably not. But I think so. It is tougher if you've kind of lived through some of the rate cuts or lowering incentives. But at the same time, for a lot of the new drivers who, I might joke, they don't know any better or they've just never experienced the other side, I think their definition of success is a lot different than someone who's been doing it for a while. So hopefully that answers your question there. 15 says, sorry, just joined. Do you think we should buy a backshield? So backshield is a pretty cool product that we reviewed, I believe, on the YouTube channel, and we also have an article coming out about it soon. I'll leave a link right now. Jay did a video on the backshield, and it's basically a supportive device for your back. We didn't get paid anything to do this video. We do have our Amazon affiliate link, I think, in that video. So if you click on our Amazon link, we get paid. Well, even if you don't even have to buy the backshield, we get paid a small, very small commission if you buy anything on Amazon, if you ever see one of our Amazon links. And, so for me personally, I do have a little back pain, but I also never drive for 8 hours at a time. And so I guess what I would say is that I think if you're experiencing back pain, the backshield can definitely be a solution for you. I would try it out and really, don't just use it for a day or two. I think you have to use it for a week or 2 or 3 weeks and really give it a shot. But it's not going to be, kind of like get rich quick of your back. It's not going to make your back better all of a sudden. I think that if you guys are driving and experiencing back pain, you really have to kind of look at it holistically and say, okay, I might use the back shield at one point, but you should probably also get up and walk around the car at times. Sometimes I get up and open the door for customers, and it's not so much to do it for them, but it's more for me so that I can stretch my back. Stretch my legs, right? If I'm in between requests, you can get up, walk around, stretch when you get home after a night of driving, or even before, loosen up your back, stretch. I like to use a foam roller. And I know Jay likes to get a weekly massage. He's got like a cheap massage place that he likes to go to and get his back worked on. So I think that would be my recommendation there. Hopefully that helps. Let's see. Harry, what do you think about the 45 cents per mile in Las Vegas? And this is from an Andrew Yang We Trust 2020. It's funny, real quick before I answer your question, I feel like a lot of drivers are big fans of Andrew Yang, and I think he's got some interesting stuff. So without getting too political, I will just say that it seems like a lot of drivers are really like Andrew Yang, and I'll kind of leave it at that. But I guess, what do I think about the 45 cents per mile in Las Vegas? I mean, the rates are what they are. I think you can, obviously low rates suck. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you're at LA, drivers are 60 cents a mile. Sounds like Vegas is 45 cents a mile. Not good. But at the same time, I think, if you're in Vegas, you probably, or hopefully, about the Kickback app, for example, which is a really popular app for a lot of drivers in Vegas that basically curates all of the places, gun shops, strip clubs, massage, whatever, where you can get little kickbacks. And I think they're usually in cash for dropping riders off at certain places. So it's sort of like kind of like what I do on my site, like affiliate marketing. If you're making good recommendations and finding good places for your passengers or your viewers, you can kind of benefit from that. They can benefit from that, and everybody wins. So there is still, I guess, opportunity beyond just the driving. And that's what I'm a big fan of. And, you've probably seen that we recommend a lot of products and services that are beyond driving that can help you make more. Uh, I figured someone might ask when I was saying Jay gets a weekly massage. I figured someone might ask about the ending. So Sako, I don't know if that's the case, but I think it is actually more for the therapeutic side. Gabriel says if your back hurts, go to stretching and doing lower back workouts. I totally agree. I actually use the foam roller every night, and it makes my back feel pretty good. So I like that. Alid says, how do you get subscribers? Well, that's a good question. I think that one of the keys to growing a YouTube channel and getting subscribers is consistency. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I think we've published or on YouTube, I think we published a video on Tuesday, Thursday for the past, basically since the channel has started, I've published a video every single Tuesday and Thursday. And then recently, of course, we've started having Cecily come in and do the weekly news roundups, which if you guys haven't checked that out yet from Cecily, those are really cool segments where we kind of recap the news on YouTube. I'll leave a link to that right now. And then now we're even doing a bonus video on Sundays. So I think consistency is the key. I see a lot of YouTubers out there. I think that it's easy to get burnt out because it's tough to make money as a YouTuber and just creating content in general. So I think it's really important to figure out a schedule that you can do, whether it's one video a week, like one amazing video a week, or maybe even one amazing video every 2 weeks, whatever that schedule is, pick it and really stick to it. I'm talking about like 1 year, 2 years, right? Think something that's going to be really sustainable. And, if you're passionate about it, it'll make things a lot easier. So Gabriel says, woof, foam rollers are amazing. I agree. And Alid says, love your videos. Well, I appreciate that. Yukman says, Cargo just sent me a box of Soylent Vanilla. Is anyone out there like this product as their cargo program, and is Cargo working for others? So Cargo is a great example of a product that drivers can kind of make some ancillary revenue from. I've tried it out myself. I put it in the car. And again, there isn't anything. I think the common theme right now is there isn't anything that's going to immediately solve all your back pain, that it is immediately going to make you, tens of thousands of dollars. But I think when you start adding a lot of this stuff together, and I just left a link to our YouTube review of the cargo box, right? You can, drivers that I'm talking to are making about $200 to $300 a month, the full-time drivers with the cargo box. There's also Firefly. That's a good option if it's available in your city. I think they're in San Francisco, LA, New York, and a few other cities, but that's the rooftop digital advertising. They're paying drivers $300 a month. So there are a lot, if you're really focused on making extra money and this is something you really care about, there are opportunities out there. And again, let's say you're making $500 a week driving Uber and Lyft, that's $2,000 a month. Cargo might be another $200 a month, maybe another $100 a month. So it's only 5 to 10% of your income, but hey, 5 to 10% is better than 0%. So that's one you can take advantage of there. Hopefully that makes sense. Steven says cargo was a bust. Well, I'm curious to hear your feedback on it, Steven, and why it was a bust. Don says, I recommend Play Octopus, and I'm going to I'll remove that comment because I don't want anyone posting affiliate links and stuff like that in my channel. Now we've got a bunch of people posting that, so don't post affiliate links in there. YouTube actually automatically moderates a lot of those for me. I think I'm the only one that's allowed to post affiliate links on my channel. So Gabriel says, no, thank you, Cargo. I'll stick to my mints and water. That's it. We actually have a really cool video coming out that I'll post a link to the article we wrote. I believe it's called Better Tips. Let me check. Where Yeah, it is. So I'm going to leave a link right now to a cool article about tipping where we partnered with a company. And to be honest, they did most of the work, but our name is on it. And they actually went out and surveyed 500 drivers and basically asked them what they think leads to the highest tips. And so that article that I just linked below is what they found. And we're actually going to have a video out in the next week or two in partnership with them where they'll explain sort of the three things they found that actually, drivers are saying lead to more tips. And I think it might surprise you what the answers are because it's not the normal stuff. I'll give you a hint though. One of them is a tipping sign. So drivers say that having a tipping sign in your car actually leads to higher tips, which I agree with. So you guys will have to watch the video or read the article though to find out why that's the case. Let's see. Don says, I'm new, so apologies for that. No need to apologize. Oh, yeah, I saw you posted the link. Yeah, no worries. Gabriel says, get out, a tipping sign. Let me go read that. Yeah, and so to kind of build on that, I think one of the drivers that tested out this tipping sign, I think that the drivers who use a tipping sign, it's sort of like, most riders either, don't tip, right? Like obviously we all know that, even though the tipping option is there. But a lot of them, I think it's sort of like when you put this little subtle pressure on them with a tipping sign, it makes them think about it and then they tip because they might feel guilty or whatever. So I don't know. I'm still torn. Like I don't personally put a tipping sign in my car when I drive Uber and Lyft, but I definitely don't fault people for doing it because it does work. So that's that. Paula, I saw you were asking about I think you were asking about this. Oh, yeah, this El Monte city protest, which was kind of interesting. So the city of El Monte, which, to be honest, I don't even know where it is. I know it's somewhere in Los Angeles. I think it's east inland. LA is a big place. I don't live near there, but El Monte passed these new rules for rideshare drivers with $30 minimum pay, which is pretty interesting. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens there. I don't have a whole lot of additional insight there, but I know Paula did a video. I think she told me she did a video for Dustin is Driving's channel, which you can go ahead and check out. Paula, feel free to leave a link to that that video that you did because I think it is interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. Tyler says, aloha from Hawaii. What's up? Aloha, Tyler. I actually haven't told you guys yet, but my wife is doing a 5-week rotation for her hospital in Hawaii. So we're going to be living in Hawaii for five weeks at the end of September to October. So we're going to be living in Oahu. So I'll be living and working, not really vacationing. We will be living in Hawaii, but I'll still be working in Hawaii. So when I go live in October, I'll be in Hawaii, and I'm gonna try and do some Lyft driving too while I'm in Hawaii. So that could be pretty cool. That could be interesting. And Sako says, I've had the cargo for 2 weeks and my tips went from 20 to 70% of the rides. Wow. So you're saying that Sako is actually saying that his tips went up from getting tipped 20% of the time to 70% of the time. Now, that sounds amazing. I kind of almost would have to see it to believe it. But that's one thing that I have heard, since cargo does from time to time have these promotions and give away free stuff, some of the riders that I've talked to and drivers say that, the riders are like getting free stuff. So, hey, you get paid for that from cargo. And then they also sometimes leave a tip for that. So in general, with a lot of these services, I think it's important to do your research, watch our video or read our review about these products. But ultimately, you're going to have to kind of try it out for yourself and see if it works. So that's what I would recommend there. Don says, I lived in Hawaii for 3 years on Oahu. So awesome. Well, sounds like I need to get some recommendations from you guys because we're going to be living in Oahu near the hospital where my wife will be working. So that'll be pretty fun. And Lisa says, thank you, Harry. I received my rideshare book that you sent me and I'm excited to read it. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you guys got it. And if you're watching right now live, definitely stay tuned to the end of this YouTube live because I'm going to give away 3 copies of my book today. So that'll be a cool little giveaway. And if you guys haven't given this YouTube live a thumbs up yet, definitely go ahead and do that now. I appreciate that. And that gets me pushed to the top of YouTube algorithm. And it's funny because sometimes, we'll get a couple hundred people watching live when YouTube algorithm seems to like us, and other times, we'll have less. So I think the more likes we can get, the more on the video, the more thumbs up we can get, the more people we can reach, and the more YouTube lives we can do also. So make sure you give a thumbs up if you haven't already, and you can also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you hit the little, I think there's a little bell icon, that way you'll know when we go live, and you can kind of get those notifications and come ask me your questions. So, all right, awesome. We just got 10 or 11 more likes. I appreciate that. So, Greg says, I have a final text sent just prior to signing off that says something like, thank you for being a 5-star rider. Please remember to rate me if you enjoyed your ride, and tips are appreciated. Yeah, I like that, Greg. It sounds like what Greg is doing is basically right before he ends the trip, he sends a quick little message of thanks and kind of subtle reminder to tip to the riders. And, I think I know this isn't for everyone. I think Paula said that this is something she doesn't do. But, hey, I don't have a problem with it as long as you're doing it in a way that isn't, too cheesy or subtle, right? I've had I'm not a big fan of, like directly asking riders, hey, don't forget to leave me 5 stars. That actually makes me want to rate them 4 stars, to be honest. But I think when you do it subtly or you kind of do it passively, that makes sense. Right now, I know a lot of drivers are having success promoting Freebird, which is another way for drivers to make money. It's a cash back app for passengers, and so basically they get paid when they take a ride with Uber or Lyft using the Freebird app. And I'll leave a link to that so you can learn how you can promote it as a driver to your passengers. But I know some of the drivers who are having a lot of success promoting Freebird to the passengers, all they do is put a little sign in their car, ask me about Freebird, or ask me how you can get $5 off your next Uber or Lyft ride, because it's really subtle and it's kind of intriguing. It makes your passenger want to know, like, hey, what's, instead of you selling them, it makes them ask you. And just in general, in selling and marketing, when people come to you to tell, it's always a lot better than you going to them and asking for something, right? You always want, in sales, you always want them coming to you. You want inbound, sort of like inbound versus outbound. So that's just some tips there that you can use. Greg says that final text has increased my tips by 33%. So that's awesome. I think kudos to you. I think it sounds like, that's working. Peter says some riders give you 3 or 4 stars for no real reason. And I think, Peter, if, maybe you're not trying to get tips, maybe you're more focused on your rating, you could send a simple text like that just reminds, even reminding riders to leave a rating, I think is helpful, because, most people, if they didn't have a good experience, they're probably going to leave a bad review, right? There's not a whole lot you can do about that. But where a lot of drivers miss out on the ratings, and one complaint that we see is, if riders have a good experience, sometimes, they close the app and don't check it for a while. And so you sort of miss out on those 5 stars. So like a gentle reminder or a nudge is always, helpful, or can, help you get better ratings. So that's something you can take advantage of. John says, I like the idea of saying that if you aren't able to leave a tip, a good rating goes a long way, or some form of that. Yeah, I think those are all great examples. John says, 80-20 rule here. I think 20% of riders leave 80% of the bad ratings. I totally agree, right? So you want to get that other 80% that, leaves the good, that doesn't maybe normally tip, or, that is kind of, just not thinking about it. You want to get them to tip. Don says, I recommend Gridwise and FarePilot apps. Both are very cool. Totally agree. Gridwise and FarePilot, we've reviewed both of those. I'll leave a link to our Gridwise review right now if you guys haven't heard of the company, since we just published it over on the blog. But it's definitely cool to see that there are a lot of companies out there that are sort of, some are more like Cargo and Firefly, trying to directly, pay you more money, to either sell stuff to your passengers or to put advertising on the top of your car. And other companies like Gridwise and FarePilot are sort of trying to help you be more strategic about driving and make more money that way. Because that's one thing, I talked earlier about Sergio, who's a driver in LA, making $25 to $30 an hour, even after the rate cuts in LA. And I mean, I've met with him a bunch of times. And the first time I met with him, he literally was scrolling through his earnings and showing me, hey, even after these rate cuts that everyone's protesting and striking about, I'm working about 10 to 20 hours a week and making over $30 an hour. And I think that sums it up really well, because honestly, at the same time, I have drivers, that are emailing me, and even that I met when I went to the LA protests, that they're telling me they're making less than minimum wage. So it's really interesting that some drivers are making $30 an hour and others are making, $10 to $15 an hour or even less sometimes, and they're in the same city. Obviously they're driving though very different times, very different places, and frankly I think they're using very different strategies. We've got a cool article I know coming up where Sergio went and interviewed a bunch of drivers in the LAX waiting lot, and a lot of them didn't even know what the destination filter was. So it really is, I totally get why some drivers kind of want to protest and feel that they should be paid more, but at the same time you really want to use all of the tools and strategies that are at your disposal. So that would be my advice there. And Sako says, I've been doing this for 5 years and would never ask directly for 5 stars or tip. I only explain how things work if brought up by the passenger. My saying is, you do not ask for it, you earn it. And I agree, Sako. I don't like to ask for it, but I do think, thinking about ways to sort of subtle, if they bring it up, okay, that's great. The door is now open, or finding ways to do it subtly. I think that is the best way. Steve says, you earn it. Amen. Peter says, on Uber, everything below 5 stars is bad. A few riders don't know that. Yep, I agree with that. And Nikki says, new drivers are getting paid less, but older drivers get and make money. I mean, I guess the only way I would think that is true is if, Nikki, if you signed up 3 or 4 years ago for Uber and Lyft, you're grandfathered in at the 20% commission structure. So for example, like I get paid 64 cents a mile here in Los Angeles, and newer drivers get 60 cents a mile. So I mean, it's a small difference. It's 4%, but I think that obviously every penny counts, and I think that's another reason to just you want to get in with a lot of these services as early as possible. Cargo, for example, when Cargo first launched, I think drivers were making a ton of money, right? Because it was new and they didn't have a lot of drivers, so they're paying out all these bonuses and incentives, and of course, over time that came down. Same thing with Firefly. So we see this right now with a lot of the rideshare services for kids are becoming really popular. Now, we've been advertising over on the blog for one called Zoom, and that's ZUM. They're a rideshare service for kids. They're telling me that they're paying their drivers over $32 an hour. Hop Skip Drive is another one. They have a $14 minimum fare. I know Paula has done some videos on our channel about Hop Skip Drive. So there are these opportunities, but I guess at the end of the day, if things are easy, everyone would be doing it. So you kind of have to imagine, you kind of have to look for those opportunities, whether it's other companies to drive for, other products and services that not everyone is driving for yet, and kind of take advantage of it while it lasts. I'd say that's the one thing, I would really, kind of be my takeaway that would kind of answer a lot of these questions we've gotten so far. Corey says, I have a 4.99 star rating with over 12,000 trips in LA. Don't beg for tips and ratings. It'll come to you when you treat folks the way you want to be treated. I totally agree with that. That makes sense. V says, Freebird is awesome. So sounds like you're doing well with Freebird. That's good to hear. Definitely recommend everyone check that out. I think they just give you 2 $5 credits or rides or something like that when you sign up. It's kind of like a no-brainer. I feel like if you can't make money with that program or referring to other people, it might that kind of marketing might not be for you. But there's definitely some opportunity there. Paula says, let's see, I think Paula says she's driving Hop, Skip, Drive, and Zoom. I make great money. She also says it's so sad these days what drivers are making. And I mean, I think it goes back to my answer earlier to Erica. For some drivers, the pay may not be enough. But I mean, frankly, it's tough for me to say that, a certain level of pay is not enough for someone, because there's a lot of drivers who it's not enough for. But at the same time, you can imagine if you have no job and no car, making anything per week is better than $0 per week. week. And so that's why a lot of drivers are turning to the FAIR program, for example, right? Because I mean, as long as you can do 20 to 30 hours a week, or preferably more, probably 30 to 40 hours a week, you can easily cover the $195 weekly payment. And you can, even if you're making a few $100, let's say, and I think that you can make more, but let's say that, you had to drive 30 hours to make $300. That's not great. But at the same time, if last week you were making $0 and this week you can make 300, that is obviously a big positive for someone like that. So, everyone's situation is different. And Don says, I use the FAIR program and I love it. Well, I'm curious to know what city you're in, Don. He says, I'm making more than $25 per hour consistently. Awesome. Well, hopefully you're using some of the tips and strategies that we talk about on the channel to do all that. He's in Laguna, so Laguna Beach. Roberto says, what is the FAIR program? Well, I kind of already covered it earlier, but I'll leave a link right now, Roberto, to our article on FAIR where you can learn a little bit about that. I think it makes a lot of sense for new drivers without a car, or even if you're just kind of tired of putting all the miles on your car. I think a lot of people underestimate the depreciation and all the other expenses that they're putting on their car, especially when you're driving full time. If you're driving full time in LA, that's 1,000 miles a week or more. Let someone else take the depreciation hit and put all those miles on their car. Unless you really know your shit when it comes to cars, I think you're probably underestimating the cost there. Tony says, hello, good afternoon, Harry. Which rideshare rental company benefits the driver more? Okay, so a lot of questions about FAIR and the rentals today. So I think FAIR is one of the best options out there. Another company that I like right now, though, is Maven Gig. And the reason why I like it is because they offer electric Chevy Volts. And so the nice thing about that is they've got a 220-mile range. So it's enough for a ride. If you have a really crazy day, it might not be enough, but most of the time it is going to be enough. 220 miles, and you can also charge it here and there and take a break, a lunch break, and get charging. So that's one of the reasons why I like Maven Gig, because they're the only company right now offering electric vehicle rentals. So that's a really cool opportunity there. Steve says, CPM spreadsheet. Can you post a link, Harry? Yes, that's actually a good point. We did a spreadsheet a while back on calculating the cost, basically your per mile earnings and also your cost per mile. So I'm going to leave a link to that, Steve, right now. I think we also have a video somewhere on the YouTube channel that you can check out. The XL specialist says, Tryp starts in 5 days in Miami. Is anyone signed up? So good old Tryp. Well, we wrote an article about Tryp a long time ago. I'm going to pull it up right now. It's December 17th, 2018. And basically, Tryp is a new rideshare company that I think had a lot of red flags when they were first starting. And I think I was kind of right about them because when I was getting all these spam messages and emails about them, it was like, we're going to be going nationwide next month in the next 2-3 months, right? And here we go, 8-9 months later. Okay, and they're finally launching in August, which I think is great. I think the more competition, the better. But I do think they shot themselves in the foot a little bit since they kind of, hyped themselves up and used this sort of referral marketing scheme that really kind of annoyed a lot of people like me because I was getting so much spam email and links and things like that. But people tell me that they have an app, and I haven't actually seen what I look for with the new company. I look to see if they have an actual license from the state. So for example, in order to be a legal TNC, a transportation network company, you have to have a license in the state. So if you go to the CPUC website, which is California Public Utilities Commission in California, you can look up and see all the approved companies for California. Now, Tryp is not on that list, but it sounds like they're launching in Florida. And someone from the company emailed me that they were launching soon. So I haven't seen their actual certificate, but it sounds like they are launching. So kudos to them. Definitely something I'll keep an eye on. And, if they end up competing with Uber and Lyft, I think that's going to be a good thing for drivers and riders. But I do think they sort of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with their early marketing. Paula says, Tryp launches in Miami on the 18th. Hey, maybe they'll fly me out to Miami to check it out. I'd be down for that. Jeff says Tryp is vaporware. So we'll see. I mean, I think I just said that it's important to be early on some of these things, but I totally understand drivers' point of view, right? Because there's all these different products and services, and typically we'll only cover something if I've vetted it, and I'm not even talking about advertisers. We're only covering companies like Tryp, for example, or others, new rideshare companies, new product service companies. We'll only cover them if I've done my due diligence. I don't want to waste your time, and I don't even want to waste my time. So we always vet all of these companies that I'm mentioning, and I wouldn't tell you guys about anything that I didn't feel confident in. And I guess with Tryp, I don't feel confident in them yet, but hey, if they end up being successful and great, more power to drivers. So yeah, definitely let me know what you guys see about Tryp. I'll keep, I keep an open mind to everything, and I'm happy to change my mind when I get new information. So Don says, I'm skeptical about Tryp. I did some research and they seem shady. So I think that sums it up for now, but we'll see. Gasparo says, hi there. Do you know about Australian market, sir? So the Aussie market, I don't know specific. I've never driven in Australia, but I've talked to several drivers in Australia. I've even interviewed a blind passenger from Australia on the podcast, Scott Rukowski. I just shared it with someone, so I know it was episode 36. I don't memorize all of my podcasts, but I know I talked to him in episode 36. He was from Australia. Really cool story, very inspiring. So I don't know a lot of the specifics about the Australian market, but one thing I've seen is that across every city and even every country, a lot of the principles and strategies are the same, right? If you come to me and ask me for advice on driving in LA and Orange County, great. I'll tell you when, where to go, the specific places, the streets, everything like that. But in Australia, I have no idea. But a lot of the principles remain the same, like targeting big events, right? Okay. Every city, every country has big sporting events and teams. And, you don't want to just rush right in there. You want to, for example, like one of the strategies we talk about is letting the surge build, right? Like that's going to happen in any sporting event in any city or country across the globe. So those strategies and principles are kind of what you want to try and use. So we've got a lot of content that I'm sure will be helpful for you, but I would think about it at more of a strategy and principle level as opposed to the details. So hopefully that makes sense. Roberto says in Australia, they drive on the wrong side. I've actually never been to Australia. Do they drive on the right hand side of the car? And I guess also the street? Maybe, but I don't know about that. I did see, Paula says left side. I did see a good question come in, and this was something I wanted to touch on today about Lyft's new pay structure. So they're actually rolling, in Australia, in America, we drive on the right side. In Australia, they drive on the left side. In Britain, they drive on the left side. Okay, I'm getting myself confused. So I want to talk about Lyft's new pay structure that rolled out in 5 or 6 markets about a month or two ago. We did an article and a video, and it is now expanding to a bunch of other markets in new cities. I think about 12 or 18 cities in the next week or two. So I'll leave a link to the video we did about Lyft's new pay structure. But basically, what Lyft is doing is they are lowering the mileage rate and I believe the per minute rate in some cities, but they're now going to pay you for driving to your passenger. So, as you guys know, right now, when you accept a request, let's say it's 10 minutes away, you don't get paid to drive to that passenger. Now, with Uber, sometimes you get a long trip bonus or whatever they call it. But with Lyft, this is this new program where they basically want to pay you for all the time, so period 2, right? When you accept a trip and you're en route to pick up a passenger, normally you don't get paid for that on Lyft, but now they want to pay you for that time. And of course, on the back end, though, they're going to lower rates to make up for it. So I don't know. I'm kind of a little bit skeptical about this just because like all of these changes that these companies make around pay rarely benefit drivers. And Lyft is sort of really, making this seem like a great thing for drivers. But I think when we analyzed it, I think it's a better thing for passengers, because now passengers that have 15-minute requests probably won't get canceled on as much. But I'm skeptical that it's going to really benefit drivers. If anything, I think there's going to be a benefit to drivers in smaller to medium cities where the Lyft requests tend to be 10, 15, 20 minutes away. In LA, I think that's a lot more rare, and their ETAs are a lot closer to what Uber's are. So I'll leave a link to that video and you can go ahead and check that out. The XL specialist says Lyft XL cut 6 cents per mile in Miami. Yeah, I think it may be to match Uber. John says, yes, SLO, San Luis Obispo County has a big problem with Lyft and long pickup. So especially in the more rural or more spread out cities, I definitely have noticed that this is a big issue with Lyft. I think honestly, this has always been an issue since day one. Dan says, Cargo deactivated me and didn't pay me what they owed me. Shame on you, Cargo. Well, I can definitely take a look at that for you, Dan, if you want to send me an email with the details. I mean, any of these companies that we mention or that we work with, if you guys ever have issues, you can always email me and I can try to help you resolve that. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but if they owe you money, I definitely will try and help you get it. Tony says, with Lyft Express, the more rides you give, the lower your weekly payment would be. Is this true? Yes. So, Tony, for Lyft Express Drive, since they're Lyft's official partner and Fare is Uber's official partner, basically the more trips you do, the more money they'll pay you in the form of a bonus. So with Uber, for example, I think their rates vary for the Fare program, but basically if you do a certain number, like a full-time number of trips, you can get the 195 weekly bonus that offsets the fee to rent the car. And I think we actually have a good article. We have a good article coming out where we compare the Lyft Express Drive program to the Uber Fare program. And I think what we found is that most of the time, especially with Uber's new Fare program, Fare comes out ahead. But if you're a driver in like San Francisco that's doing an insane number of rides, like 150 rides a week, Lyft has this extra bonus tier where it may make sense for you to go with the Lyft Express Drive program. But I think for the most part, when you do a head-to-head of the Lyft Express Drive program and the Fare program, as long as it's that new Fare program, usually the Fare program comes out ahead. So definitely check that out. Jeff says, where is Dustin? I don't know. My moderator, Dustin, is slacking, but we'll see what he's up to. And Dan says, Harry for president. Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, cool. Well, I think we're coming to the end of the YouTube Live. So if you guys haven't given this stream a thumbs up, definitely go ahead and do that now. If you have any remaining questions, feel free to get those in right now. We'll go ahead and do the giveaway in a few minutes here. I just want to see if any remaining questions come in. I'm scrolling through. I think I answered pretty much everyone's question. I think if you asked a question, at least if it was a good question, it probably got answered. But if I missed anything, feel free to ask it right now. And you can always leave a comment below after this live is over, or send me a email. All right. So let's see. Let's answer a couple more questions and we'll do the giveaway. Franco says, I noticed that Lyft changed our Lux compatible vehicles. Are Lyft Lux Black XL drivers grandfathered in for an Infiniti QX60 that was eligible for all Lux type and now only one? So, I don't know specifically in this case, but typically what we've seen is Lyft and Uber, when they change the vehicle requirements, they are pretty good about grandfathering you in. So if right now you have a vehicle, an Infiniti QX60 that's eligible for Lyft Lux, and they change the requirements tomorrow so that car is no longer eligible, I believe that you will still be good to go. And I'm almost 100% sure that you're grandfathered in. And these, I will say to Uber and Lyft's credit, they're usually pretty good about grandfathering people in. So that's one thing that they do a good job. May not be great for new drivers. And we actually have an article coming out tomorrow about Lyft's new policy in Florida, which is kind of interesting, where they're requiring 2017 or newer vehicles. So if you're a brand new driver in Florida, the only way for you to get on now is you have to have a 2017 or newer. So I'll leave a link right now to you can subscribe to our email list and you'll get that article in your inbox tomorrow morning if you want to learn about that new option there. And let's see, 15 says, what do you think of diamond status with Uber? Hard to keep. Yeah, I agree. Definitely the upper tiers of Uber or Uber Pro are pretty hard to keep. So that's something to consider. And then I think the last question I'll answer is Don. He says, I would like to know your thoughts on opportunities nearby. 9 times out of 10, it takes me to a remote area with no trip request. So Don is talking about on the Uber driver app. Sometimes it'll give you a little notification at the bottom of the screen. It'll say there's an opportunity nearby, go drive to this area. And we'll give you, or you have a better, basically they're saying you'll have a better chance of getting a ride if you go drive to some nearby area. And this is actually one of the things that I complained about when I did my video about the new Uber driver app, is that what I would like to see is, okay, how trustworthy is this information? I don't really follow those. I was driving literally last night, and what did it say? It said, expect a trip soon, or whatever it says. When like trips are nearby, I think is what it says. And basically, it's saying you're going to get a trip soon, and I didn't get a trip for a while, a very long time actually. So I didn't really trust that information, and I don't really trust the opportunities nearby. But if Uber is trying to do the right thing here, I would love to see them put their money where their mouth is, right? Like if they say, hey, go drive to this nearby opportunity and we'll actually guarantee that you get a ride in 5 minutes, or we'll pay you $5, right? That's what I would like to see. I think it's a huge missed opportunity for these companies to sort of put their money or put their money where their mouth is. But we'll see. Hopefully they do add something like that in the future, because right now I don't really trust a lot of the notifications and the nudging, I think is what they call it, that Uber and Lyft do. Peter says, why don't you do more Q&A? Well, I do them every single month for the past 2 years. So going back to that consistency I talked about earlier, I think Sako asked that question, or someone asked that question about growing subscribers. That's one thing. I can definitely commit to one a month, but I'm trying to do one every 2 to 3 weeks right now, YouTube Live. So I'll definitely I actually do want to do more live. So feel free, if you guys haven't subscribed yet already, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I go live, because I'll probably start doing more kind of random YouTube lives and just kind of pop on maybe whenever there's big news or anything like that to answer your questions. And maybe they'll be a little shorter instead of the long hour that we normally do. So, all right. If you guys want to win a copy of my book tonight, I'm going to make it really easy for you guys to enter. All you need to do is send me an email, harry@therideshareguy.com, subject line YouTube Live, and give me your number one tip for making more money as a driver. I think a lot of the questions tonight revolved around some of the, the rates being low, or, the cargo opportunities to make more money, or driving with fare. And I think we all have our sort of strategies and tips. So if you guys have something that you think no one else is doing, or something that's just sort of unique to you, or maybe it's just using a cargo box or Firefly, send me an email, harry@therideshareguy.com, subject line YouTube Live, and give me your number one tip for earning more as a driver. We're going to go ahead and pick 3 winners of my book, The Rideshare Guide, everything you need to know about driving for Uber, Lyft, and other ride-sharing companies. So all you need to do is send me an email if you want to enter to win one of the 3 copies. And as Paula says, smash that like button, guys. It actually reminds me, I've been watching this YouTube channel, this guy, Graham Stephen, who is, he does a lot of personal finance stuff, and he always is telling his audience to smash the like button, I think. So I'm going to steal that. Encourage you guys to smash the like button if you haven't already, and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate everyone, each and every one of you who have come on. If this was your first time joining, welcome. I'll be back, maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. Otherwise, we do it monthly. And for everyone else who's been here multiple times, I appreciate you all too. And until next time, stay safe out there, and don't forget to work smarter, not harder. All right, take care, everyone. See you next month.